I am going to hold your hand when I tell you this. If you keep ending up in toxic relationship, dating toxic men, you are a part of the problem. I'm just gonna be super brutally honest, and if you get offended, I am not even sorry. If you're new here, my name is Kara V. I went to Love Island many years ago and I actually left in a relationship. And that relationship was the beginning to many toxic relationships that left me at rock bottom. After hitting rock bottom, God showed me the truth that I was the problem. It wasn't the men. It wasn't God, it was me. People ruin their lives by their own foolishness, then are angry at the Lord. I was just angry at God. I was like, why me? And God really revealed to me that it's my own foolishness that's leading me to these toxic relationships. The foolishness came from me following my heart. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? That's why we ended up dating men that we know we should not be dating. That's why we be ignoring red flags. Because when you follow your emotions, your desires, you want to get that instant gratification. You follow a path that takes shortcuts and you try to have it all in a route that you're not even supposed to take. And for the ones that are not reading the Bible or not interested in the Bible, don't let that stop you from listening to this message, okay? I was reading the story of how Moses freed the Israelites from Egypt, and it really made me think that Egypt used to be my toxic ex, used to be that toxic relationship that I was in, and then I was freed from it. But then I was scared to be in the wild. I was complaining to God, why am I here? Maybe I should just go back to my toxic ex because this wilderness, I don't know if I'm gonna survive out of here. Was it because there was no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than die in the desert. The Israelites, when they got into the wilderness, they were scared because they're like, okay, we're definitely gonna die here. You brought us out to the wild.
But you did this for what? Why not?
That is literally how the brain operates when you leave a toxic relationship. And this will really resonate to the people that has been in multiple toxic relationships or can't break free from the toxic cycle, okay? If you can't relate to that, you're not gonna relate to this message. So when you're sent into the wilderness, into your single season, you literally rather go back to your toxic ex because that feels more familiar than you being by yourself. We don't like the unpredictable. We don't like the unknown. It makes us not feel safe. And because I didn't feel comfortable in my single season, I always went back to the toxic relationships. And yet I kept blaming God for it, but it was really me running back to Egypt. And that's why you should never follow your heart because it's deceitful. It's going to make you desire something that is not even good for you. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, the garlic. But now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. You see how ungrateful they are? God really swept out all the Egyptians and they still went on to complain later on like God didn't have their back. And sometimes we just need to be reminded God really does have our back. So let's talk about it. So when the Israelites were just about to go into the promised land, they found out that the promised land was occupied by giants. So they were like, oh my God, you're telling me I have to go fight these giants? Like, they're gonna kill us. We would have rather died in Egypt than dying fighting these giants. That's okay. And I just want to put this into perspective. Think of the giants as things that you have to face about yourself, things that you have to heal about yourself in order to reach your promised land. One of the biggest giants that I had to face was my anxious attachment style. And anxious attachment style really is the umbrella of so many different things. There's so many toxic traits that goes under an anxious attachment style, and that's really what was keeping me in the toxic cycle. I had to face that giant and had to heal that, but it was so hard for me to do that in the past because I generally felt like my anxious attachment style was keeping me alive, was keeping me safe. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness so that Christ's power may rest on me. When you feel that pain or that discomfort or that weakness, just know this is your opportunity to get closer to God, not further away. Because oftentimes when we feel weak, that's when we go away from God. That's when we go follow our own hearts and go to our foolish paths. That's when we go and text the ex. That's when we go to find distraction, go to find instant gratification. But guess what? When you are the most weak, that's when God can work the best in you, and you should just lean onto him instead leaning onto your own desires, which is going to be just getting something for your instant gratification. We are living in a generation that we're so self-centered that we think we are our own gods. This whole manifesting culture, we believe that we can just create our own reality, that every single one of our desires should just come true because we want to. But you have to take a step back and think, what is God's will for your life? Because last time I checked, you're here because God wants you to be here, because God created you. Your parents didn't do much to create you, but just a little boom, boom, okay? God designed and created you for a specific purpose, and he has a will in your life. Whatever you're trying to manifest, anything that you are trying to build on your own, God is going to be able to give you more than that, because he has more planned for you. Literally have my journal, me trying to manifest my husband on Love Island because I was so desperate to create my own perfect little love story, but that was never God's will for me. It gets me so emotional. When I let go and let God, I was able to come into my promised land. Like, I am genuinely so happy. I have the relationship that I always wanted. I am so happy in my marriage. Outside from just the love that I have within my family, but just like the lifestyle that I have, just my life in general is everything and more than I prayed for and that I wanted. And I know that I could have never done this if it wasn't for God. Like, this was literally God. My life right now was me walking to my promised land. But I'm gonna tell you something. Those giants, ooh, wait, hold up. Those giants is the healthy relationship. Maybe not. But you guys know what I mean? The healthy relationship before the marriage. Ooh, let's talk about it. But he talks about this. Entering a healthy relationship after only knowing what's like to be in a toxic relationship is so difficult. There's so many things you have to unlearn and so many things you have to learn. So God really was like, okay, we're gonna go to battle right now. It's not gonna be the promised land that you thought of. Wow, it's hitting me. It's not gonna be the promised land you thought of, right? So the Israelites was like, okay, we're gonna get into the promised land. Everything's gonna be good. It's gonna be handed to us. No, we're gonna go to war, and you're gonna have to lean into God. You're gonna have to have faith. I saw the promised land. Like, I was like, okay, this is the man I'm gonna marry. Then I saw the giant. And now I have to fight. I have to go to war with all the toxic patterns that I carried. I had to heal the wounds in order for me to go into my promised land. I could have not entered this marriage if I was still craving Egypt. I had to let go of so many things. I had to let go of fear. And I had to completely let God renew my mind. You have to realize what it is in you that is allowing these men to come into your life. Is it because you're following your heart? Is it because you're leaning into your own understanding? Is it because you don't want to face the wounds? Is it because you don't want to heal? You have to really think about it. You keep ending up in toxic relationships. It's because a part of you is enabling that. A part of you is running to that. A part of you is not ready to heal and face the truth that you are the problem. A lot of the times, the reason why people don't get what they prayed for, because they're not relying on God. You can't just pray for something and not involve God and not depend on God for it. It doesn't work like that. The Israelites actually wanted to go back to Egypt. They wanted to go back to the toxic environment because it was too uncomfortable to be in the wild. It was too uncomfortable to depend and rely on God. But for the ones that rely and depend on God are the ones that enter the promised land. I remember in my testimony that I shared here on YouTube, said in the video that I was a problem, and I talked about how I didn't have a foundation with God. And really, that's all it is. You need to have a foundation with God. And when I say foundation with God, is that you lean onto God's word. You lean into his understanding and you put your faith in God and not yourself. It's all about decentering yourself and centering God. Somebody in the comments said that they don't agree with me. They think it's actually so wrong that I'm saying this because there's some women who are super godly, super connected with God and still end up in these relationships. And I'm just feeding onto the shame cycle that it's the fault of the woman to be in abusive relationships. And listen, everybody's circumstances is different, but I'm speaking from experience. I cannot speak for other people's experiences, but I know there's always going to be somebody out there that can relate to my story. So with that being said, if you are in the wilderness, do not run back to Egypt. The wilderness is not a punishment, it is a preparation. You being prepared for your biggest blessing. You being prepared to enter your promised land. So don't go back to Egypt. Don't go back to your toxic ways. God is doing his work and God has your back always. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please comment down below. Every time you guys like, every time you guys comment, it really does help my channel. So please just leave a comment. Just leave something down there, give it a like. I really, really do appreciate it. I love talking about all these things, so don't ever feel shy. You guys can always message me on Instagram. I'm planning on sharing more about how God healed my anxious attachment style, because that is definitely something that I know a lot of women will be able to relate to, because I know having an anxious attachment style is so challenging. And I also want to talk about the truth and the reality of going from toxic relationships to healthy relationships and all the things that I had to unlearn and learn. Really hope to see you guys in my next week's video. I post every single Thursday, and I will see you guys next time. I enjoyed this video so much. I hope you did too.